ships. This is Soren Larsen. Message begins. Man overboard from sailing vessel Anna Christina. Sailing vessels Soren Larsen, trade winds Tucker Thompson and Anna Christina. Searching area in company. 2 life rings from Anna Christina, also in water. No sightings of either man or life rings as yet. Message ends.
August the 22nd, 1987. Somewhere in the middle of the South Atlantic. 14 days out of Rio, 4 months out of England. And the dreaded message has hit us. Man overboard. We thought it would never happen. One of our family is out there, drowning, alone. Why? How did it ever come to this? What the hell is this voyage about anyway?
The story begins 200 years ago. England was enjoying a cultural heyday and a time of frivolity. The upper classes, of course. Anything to avoid facing the tedious realities of the times. Unfortunately for England, these deliberate diversions had their consequences, such as the loss of our American colonies in 1776. The victorious American revolutionaries refused to accept any more of our criminal class. So somewhere else had to be found, as our jails were filled to capacity. The typhus-ridden prison hulks on the Thames had become an embarrassment. And even our monarch, King George III, recognized that times were changing. So a solution was devised to both empty our jails and settle a new colony. A fleet of 11 ships was gathered to sail under Captain Arthur Phillip. The destination was to be the strategic southern continent, now named Australia. I was an officer of that fleet. Philip Gidley King is my name. I shall observe your reenactment of our voyage with great interest, as I know that strange things can happen to those who traverse the high seas.
I'm British and I'm hardy.
Nothing bad about British, but British is more stiff, I think, compared with Scandinavian. I'm Scandinavian.
Pilot, stop this! There'll be no fighting on my ship!
I am in charge of this vessel, and if I think the safety of the ship is at risk, I am the one that makes the decision.
Short of mutiny and setting him adrift in the Zodiac, which I'd love to do, we can't really do anything about it.
With so many of you cramped into such a small space, you've got to learn to get on with other people.
Ever since I've been in Squirrels, I haven't seen another black man. To me, this is something. This is like a new beginning, you know?
It's all right, Tony. See you later.
Don't go too fast for the fish to catch up. Only a few fast fish can go.
So I don't want to criticize anybody. I don't want to criticize the Commodore. I don't want to criticize the fleet. But for Christ's sake, let's sail as a fleet.
I could be earning a lot more money doing something a lot less romantic.
I know I can!
Maybe I've inherited my thought patterns or mannerisms or speech or philosophy of my ancestor, Lieutenant Philip Gidley King. I think reincarnation is a distinct possibility.
Reincarnation, an intriguing thought. I am flattered that an Australian descendant should have such an obsession. And as some of your ships depart from London, I shall indeed embark with you, in spirit. But a great vision carries a great responsibility, and a voyage of 13,000 miles under sail is an endeavor he may well have underestimated.
Their own ship signalling back. I mean, it's really all taking off. This is the start of Australia's bicentenary, right here, right now.
April the 27th, 1987. We're off on a voyage that was so daring 200 years ago. Somebody compared it to flying in a fleet of spaceships to Mars today. Most of us trainees haven't sailed a square rigger before. We're trying not to look like idiots.
Now, up at top, so I said leave off. Now, who the hell made it fast up top?
Did you know that 200 years ago in the first fleet, this is what the little girls had to wear? But they were much more dirty and ragged than this because they were convicts. Those poor little kiddies, they must have been frozen. This is what they were in the second first fleet.
Feels pretty dodgy out here, but Jonathan King has brought his daughters on board until Portsmouth. They've grown up with this dream of his, and now he's even getting them up the rigging to promote it on TV.
Ronnie, make sure you hang on. And when you stop, be sure to put your harness on. Clamp it on to something that's not going to break, all right? Because you're a long way up. Next, climb up on those two rungs. That's it, and we'll undo your belt. Good, Peter. You got it. Right? Standing on there. Well, now you get your feet firmly there.
Yeah, just
Lunge along a little further. That's it. Very good. Now.
Is that your foot?
Yeah, that's my foot. How's that feel?
Good.
You want to see if you can lean over and see the camera operator? No.
Oh, no.
That's all right. There you are. See?
No.
An 8-month journey, and we have to drop anchor before we've even cleared the Thames. Stuck in a bloody pea soup fog in a tanker freeway.
Make it fast around anything at all.
Make it fast to the...
Anything at all. You've got to run around the rail, look. That's it. Take all the slack out. Down on that.
That's to warn other ships that we are a ship at anchor. If they're keeping a good watch, they should hear that.
The anchor light up the top, mate. Anchor light is up.
Yeah, but what if they're not keeping a good watch? And what if they don't see the anchor light? Day 2 of the voyage, still in the Thames estuary. I didn't get much sleep last night. Worried a container ship might slice us in two.
Are you slowing down? Then pace yourselves. Long haul.
So we're keen to get out into the channel. There's so much to learn. Halyards, sheets, braces, bunt lines, square sails, foresails, stay sails, futtocks. Futtocks?
Hold up, Peter. Steve's that sheet there.
The twitchy skipper doesn't help.
No. Keep at this for 3 weeks. We'll just about know what we're doing. Well, right, the brace, starboard brace, ease out. Port brace, take in. Starboard upper topsail brace, leave off the pin. Just leave like that. Oh dear. So, use your body weight. If you've got a fat bum, use it. Alright? So stretch up and you heave out, right? Heave all the body weight. Then you go to the pin. And you take the slack in, right? So 2, 3, leave to the pin. Got it?
And that's where we started, back at London in St Catherine's Docks. We've come all this way, out into the estuary, into the channel, and here's where we are now. We're going to cut across the ferry channels, and then we're going to work our way down to Portsmouth, here.
You're the only twin that's been put together in a hurry.
Now, that is bloody dangerous, and that could have
caused a serious accident. Now, we're sailing the vessel, the safety's got to come first. If you want to do anything with a rope, you let the mate on charge know. Because that could, you've got people aloft, right, and we're also under sail. See, do you understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Because if you take one of the main halyards or something like that off, we're going to have a very serious accident.
Yeah.
You must, I mean, it's very, very paramount importance.
Another English spring day. Our Commodore, Mike Kitchenside, brings us into Portsmouth Harbour, manoeuvring between the peak hour traffic.
Well on the lower, well on the course, make fast, port side. On starboard, on starboard.
Portsmouth reckons it's the birthplace of Australia because this is where the original First Fleet gathered and sailed from. The other ships are joining us here too, like Bounty, the movie star.
Our original fleet was delayed here by over 4 months due to all sorts of bureaucracy. Captain Phillips' commission papers hadn't arrived. The sailors refused to sail without rum, the convict women had no clothes, and the Marines had no ammunition. We wondered if we would ever set sail from Portsmouth. While our eventual departure went virtually unnoticed, what lay ahead was to have a profound effect.
While all these festivities are going on, we've just heard that there's no money for the fleet to sail. Can you believe it? What's going to happen when the Queen comes to wave us off and no ships are there? I suppose we've just got to believe the show will go on.
Come on, sing along. Singing to singing to once more.
You know, we really, really do want to go. There's no doubt about that.
I think every ship in the fleet's put their neck on the line in one way or another. I'm sure they've all got damn great overdrafts and they've gone for it, but they believe in it. And it's a wonderful adventure, an opportunity of a lifetime. This hasn't been done before.
Most of these people think that this is an official Australian government project, instead of two guys mortgaging their families' homes. Even the Queen and Prince Philip probably think it's an official occasion. Let's hope the Aussie government comes to the party in time.
Now, the gifts that have been brought over are a didgeridoo from Catherine in the Northern Territory and the Aboriginal flag. And both of these gifts will travel back with the fleet as a gesture that it is our hope that this fleet will be the beginning of a future for all Australians, past and present. So, Loanna and Bryony.
Did he hand over the Aboriginal flag? He has no right to touch the Aboriginal flag. Has Jonathan King got permission to fly the Aboriginal flag from anyone? Okay. Excuse me, it looks like I'm going to get arrested here. It's an Aboriginal person.
What are you objecting to?
I am an Aboriginal person from Sydney.
Yeah, what are you objecting to?
That's what you're objecting to. I'm part of the arts festival here in Portsmouth.
What are you objecting to?
I've come with an Aboriginal art show. I'm handing over the Aboriginal flag.
Not only was there the Aboriginal question, but the whole reason for our voyage was under question.
So why are you reenacting your convict birth? Isn't that the origin of your larrikin element?
Well, I think Australia has inherited, as a result of this convict birth, an irreverent and larrikin strain, but I do think that the tide has turned, and now in Australia people are proud to be convict descendants, and I think they're also proud if they can find a first fleeter among their numbers, and that's partially because of what we're doing here today. We are making the First Fleet project happen, and thereby we are making Australians proud of their past.
We still hope we'll sail, but the Pommy officials are getting nervous about safety standards because a few years ago a ship like ours, the Marquise, sank with 19 lives lost.
Now all these ships now are under tremendous pressure to get their boats through. And the latest problems, like for example today, we were informed at 9 or 10 o'clock this morning that we've got now put our load line mark on the side of the hull. This has only been confirmed today. Now the ship's leaving tomorrow. We've got a hell of a problem to move the ship off the dock. It's damn nearly a mission impossible, but we're going to do it.
While Portsmouth was raging on the last night, the Australian government finally woke up and came good with just enough money to get us out of England.
In the spirit of early colonial Sydney and in a true spirit of Australia's bicentenary, may God speed and bestow upon this voyage a fair and a favouring breeze. God save the fair city of Sydney! God save the fair city of Portsmouth! And God save the King! King George III, remember? Our felicitations to you. God bless you, one and all.
Maybe not, Ron.
Twice the man, half the size.
He wants me to come back half the size and twice the man.
Being the family, I'm really depressed about that, distressed. All the kids say, "You're going to miss my birthday, Daddy." And that really upsets me. I'm going to be distressed to miss out on 8 months of my family. Now I have to put to sea. I'm terrified. I know nothing about square rig sailing, and I'm terrified of high seas and small ships out in the oceans.
Go to Cascalot, to pick up a steel bar, 1 1/4 diameter steel. An 1 1/4 steel bar. It's a long, long rod. All right, we've had a slight mishap, and I need another one.
Hello there.
What's happened?
Not a lot. Just a minor disaster. We follow in line as originally the single line was, I believe. Is that correct?
Negative, following 2 lines, but you have to follow Bounty because I have a minor engine delay. Over.
Roger, we'll follow Bounty.
Bounty has become our flagship out of Portsmouth. The Soren Larsen was meant to be, all because of a problem in the engine room. But I thought we came here to sail.
Unbelievably bad luck, but it's unbelievable. I've been looking forward to this day for 10 years. Sailing out of Portsmouth with the first fleet, and I got onto the flagship, thinking I'd be on the most important ship, and she was the only ship that didn't sail. I mean, and quite frankly, it's really heartbreaking if you think about it. Poor old captain. You know, I heard him say this is the most important day of my life. The Queen telling me to sail to Australia, and I can't get my engine started.
We've been left behind, all dressed up and nowhere to go. Open sea. This is what we came for. At last we're free, sailing as a fleet. One could even believe the first fleet is with us.
By comparison with our fleet, your departure from Portsmouth has been commendably smooth. And even the spirits of the sea are gathering at your bows.
Any more for breakfast? What? Breakfast. What's on? What's on for breakfast, Andy? Bacon, eggs and sausage today.
Breakfast. Oh, that's the last thing on my mind. I'm not feeling too good right now. But you don't have to earn your sea legs anymore. I'll stick them behind your ears.
Okay, feeling better?
Yep, feel better already, yeah.
How many fingers?
6.
Oh, you're all right.
Oh, baked beans. Yuck. When am I going to be able to keep it down? And why is it that everyone else seems okay?
I have to move the trays down so that it fits in because they're great big trays for so many people.
Don't you ever get seasick?
Well, you get very seasick, but you just have to carry on working, otherwise people won't eat. One of the most important things is to make sure everything stays tidy so that if you do get a big wave, you don't have everything going on the floor.
The members of the permanent crew were allowed 2 beers per day, and the trainees are allowed to have 2 beers and 2 shorts a day, so 2 nips of grog a day, and that is as long as they don't have it before going on watch.
This is the Lizard, and it's the southernmost point of Britain, and so we're making our departure in a sort of time-honoured way, and hopefully this will be, on this particular voyage anyway, the last bit we see of England.
So farewell to all judges, so kind and forgiving. Farewell to your prisons and cells. For though we must live all that makes life worth living, we are leaving you bastards as well. Here's adieu.
Imagine what it must have been like, leaving your loved ones forever. We've been getting to know the ropes and getting to know the crew. The third mate on the Soren Larsen is called Croc because he's an Aussie. He had to make a big decision when he signed on with the fleet, to choose between 2 once-in-a-lifetime experiences, to sail with the fleet or to stay back home for the birth of his first child.
All the excitement's back in Australia, as far as I'm concerned at the moment. I'm sure that'll change once the baby's born, and I get to see some photos of it, of the baby in Rio.
The flagship's skipper, Tony Davies, and his wife, Fleur, have the youngest member of the fleet, 3-year-old Natasha. She's seasick too.
It's very, very demanding in the respect you don't have the freedom with children at home. They can go in the garden, they can run around, and you can get on with your work. On board the ship, you have got to be with them most of the time. In that respect, it's very demanding.
We had over 20 children on the first fleet. You have only 2 to deal with.
Dash, don't run.
If you've had a child on board from birth, and it's their total way of life, it's no more dangerous than a child living on a street that's, they can cross a road, you know, and they get run over by a car. It's as simple as that.
Bon voyage!
Why did you float over the side?
I'm going to go to Sydney all the way.
Where is Sydney?
Over that way. Can't see it, it's a bit too far.
Is it very far? Is it a long way away?
We're sailing west to avoid being pushed by the winds into the Bay of Biscay off Portugal, spotting the ships of the fleet when we can. Tucker Thompson, the baby of the fleet, made it all the way from New Zealand. Anna Christina, 99 years old, who joined us from Norway. Amarina, the Swedish barkentine, the largest of the fleet. Bounty, replica of the infamous mutiny on the Bounty. And the flagship Soren Larsen, the elegant British brigantine, today gave refuge to a fellow traveller.
The importance of being on good ships was also brought home to us in the last couple of days crossing the Bay of Biscay, as rough weather sank a nearby French fishing boat in the same area, forcing her crew into open seas in life rafts to await rescue. Our only problem now seems to be an acute water shortage. As the water tanks are so small on these old ships, there is not enough water for all of us 37 passengers to take a shower, let alone a bath, or even wash our socks for that matter. This is Jonathan King on the Bicentennial First Fleet, just south of the Bay of Biscay, reporting for Macquarie National News. Over.
Okay, Jonathan, thank you for that, over.
There's no showers, as you know, there's no freshwater showers on board. And I hate being dirty, even though I am a pom. And as an Australian, you should understand this. So every day I have a saltwater shower from a bucket from the sea. 2982, 4538, 1600. Hut, hut,
In our new home, everyone has their own fears. The fear of going overboard, the fear of sharks, the fear of confinement or wide open spaces. But for most, the fear of going aloft for the first time is the most terrifying.
Terrifying is all relative. I mean, I consider living in some place like New York City terrifying. What I basically do is every day, about this time, I go up and survey everything. Make sure there's no chafe, no wear, no tear. Make sure the lines are in fairly good nick. Basically, I want to try and keep the people who come up after me alive. You know, if they're climbing and they step on something, and they hurt themselves or kill themselves, someone will want to know why.
We had 48 deaths during our voyage, most of whom had been delivered to us sick. But of those who fell overboard, more victims were lost working from the bowsprit than from off the rigging.
It's enough for us to understand what happened 200 years ago. The historical parallels are ever present. There are ghost ships out there, right? We're sailing along, and around us, you can see, if you look clearly, the ghosts of the first fleet ships. There are 11 ghosts out there. They're following us. We're travelling together. Just need a bit of imagination. Read the journals.
Tenerife, 193 is the cost to Tenerife.
Well, when I heard about the first fleet reenactment, I just thought it was just too incredible to be true. 11 square riggers in full sail, England to Australia. So I booked on one of the legs, and a lot of great things about it, but I tell you something, I'm on the goddamn, it's called a graveyard watch. It's from midnight until 4 in the morning. And so they get you up at midnight, and I don't see the sun set because I'm sleeping in order to be able to stay up all night, and I don't see the sun rise because I'm too exhausted. And like last night, it was black, it was miserable and cold. I got bored. I was sort of wandering around the deck trying hard to find something to do because 4 hours in the dark, in the wet, it's just... And then I thought, God, and I'm paying for this too. I can't believe it.
I wasn't going anywhere in my life, just digging holes, filling them with concrete. And the opportunity to come on this voyage came along and I jumped at it. I don't know whether I've done the right thing yet or not. But another 8 months to find out.
Anna Christina's skipper, John Sorensen, is only 25. He seems a pretty relaxed bloke. We call his ship the hippie ship, a gypsy of the seas.
Anna Christina, Soren. Yeah, we're just passing Marina now, and we're going on the other tack now and go on the same course as you. So we're at the bottom of the line together with Marina from now.
Roger, Roger. Marina, this is Soren Larsen.
The Commodore is British. Nothing bad about British, but British is more stiff, I think, compared with Scandinavian. I'm Scandinavian. For example, he's brought up Navy-wise, I think, and on bigger ships. This is a small ship, and he's wearing quite a lot of uniform, and I don't have a uniform. Well, Jonathan King gave me a tie in Portsmouth, so I got a tie now. So I actually can look pretty handsome, if I may say so.
This ship has never been further south than Scotland. The sun can be really hard on her, and worms in tropical waters are a real danger to old wooden ships. She's 99 years old, a topsail ketch built of Norwegian pine.
What did you say? Tighten the mizzen mast. It's okay.
Her deck length is only 76 foot, the second smallest in the fleet, but nice and quick.
Okay.
The crew may seem laid back at times, but the work gets done. She uses every gust of wind that comes along.
Come on, it's coming! I have very little fuel capacity, so I need to, when I have wind, I need to use it 100%. And that is a problem because he might want me to slow down to keep up with the fleet. That means that in the end I might have to motor. And I just don't have fuel enough for motoring. Okay, pull in the preventer.
The smaller ships sail fast with light winds, but the large ships need strong winds. So we're already becoming two fleets, the fast and the slow. Well, I like the vitality of these Vikings, who don't even wear safety harnesses.
Vitality should not be confused with immortality. Tragedy will strike the Anna Christina. The first mate, Henrik Nielsen, the captain's best friend, will be taken by the South Atlantic within 3 months. He will be wrestling with a sail, much as he is doing now.
Flag off.
John Brock, the engineer, will dive overboard to try to save his life. Abby Heath, the cook, will struggle against the force of the ocean to try to keep them both with her. The Anna Christina will not be the same without their first mate. The tragedy occurs on approximately the same date and location as our first man overboard 200 years ago.
This is your bread, Henrik. Yeah. Mutt's just dropped in for lunch.
Henrik is the skipper's only qualified navigator, and he's pretty patient with us trainees.
How are you doing? Still right?
rising? Yeah, I think it's just come over the top, but I'd like to just to spend a little bit more time to make sure it has, but...
How much is it? 81?
You need the declination as well. So you just still have to look it up in the tables? No, not these tables. The almanac you should use. Yep, okay, right, okay. Shall we go back and do that? Yes. Right.
3 weeks at sea. We've almost made it to Santa Cruz, Tenerife. With a bit of luck, Henrik's navigation will confirm this.
Remember? Yes, right. So, we're now on same longitude. And down here we got equator. Right. I'll just spell equator.
And from there, heading straight for Santa Cruz, and expected arrival 0800 tomorrow morning.
So Roger, we want to all group up together, not too far apart, and get ourselves in some sort of semblance of a line certainly by tomorrow morning. Over.
Unbelievable! Trade wind has caught up. She had to offload her trainees as we were leaving Portsmouth because of red tape. Mark Hammond is the skipper. He's from Queensland. It's great to have them back with us. So tomorrow morning, Tenerife, the Canary Islands. A chance to meet the rest of the fleet.
Our progress from England had been rather better than expected, as all 11 of our ships made it safely to this Spanish territory. The chief object in touching here was to obtain fresh supplies of water and vegetables. And of course, we looked forward to stretching our legs ashore.
Tenerife looks great!
7 adults and 1 child had died since Portsmouth. And there were still 72 sick convicts and 9 Marines under the care of the chief surgeon. As we approached the island, the convicts were released from their irons for health reasons, after a severe warning to behave themselves.
May the 29th, and Tenerife looks as dry as a Pommy's towel. Maybe it's because we've been surrounded by water for 3 weeks. It's taken this long to really get the feel of the ship at sea, and now we're going back ashore.
Hold it again. We're coming for Tedford.
Some of the officers in the First Fleet rode off on mules to the volcano, but right now a shower and a beer would do me. The best bit of news is that Svanen has rejoined us, making us now 7 ships in the fleet. She came all the way from Vancouver, but got stuck in Portsmouth by more red tape. She's the 2nd ship without paying trainees. Little wonder the fleet's got money problems. But she's still sticking with us.
So when we heard half an hour ago that she was coming, we just were over the moon. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So by Rio, 8 ships.
On Tenerife, it was decided advisable to give our people such refreshments as this place could provide, for the sake of health. The Spanish governor received us most politely.
We soon got a chance to meet the rest of the fleet, over 140 of us. It was great sharing a few yarns about the trip. It seems each of us thinks our ship is the best, and we're forming loyalties with our skippers.
What do you want to have to do for a while?
Palm trees and a nice drink, and suddenly they're here again.
Well, let's hope we're all clapping at the end. It's early days, but let's just ask, who's here from Afghanistan? Nobody? Iceland? No? What about England? England? Okay, that's on from England. What about Australia? United States of America? Good. Canadians? We got any Swedes? Any more from anywhere else?
There's New Zealand.
New Zealand, well, that's part of Australia.
Well,
200 years ago today, there was a fleet. A fleet in Tenerife called the First Fleet, and these are the names of the trainees and the Commodore and the captains that were on ships then.
It was here in Tenerife that we had our first escape attempt, but the culprit was soon recaptured and clapped in irons.
I just felt that we were treated like cadets, or, you know, as if we were only in our teens instead of being mature adults. And I don't think that anyone deserves a mutiny, and I don't think the skipper of the Soren Larsen deserves a mutiny. I just think that he may learn a lot from this voyage and hopefully become a warmer, more communicative person. I mean, please don't get me wrong. I have the utmost admiration for Jonathan King and Wally and the visionaries, and these guys, the organisers, had to do it all by themselves. They've risked their houses, they're on mortgage. The Australian government did, you know, sweet Fanny Adam for this thing.
Dr. Jonathan King. Thank you, Wally. Today is the most historical day. Listen, I'll make bloody historians out of the lot of you. By the time we get to Sydney, you'll know it all. 200 years ago today... 200 years ago today, Philip landed here in Tenerife.
The locals had heard about us Aussies already, and they were expecting great things. But I think they were a bit surprised that we didn't speak Spanish.
Sí, nada, no te preocupes. No será por una cierta periodista que conozco, ¿verdad?
Pues, por de pronto besa mejor que Don.
Llámanos, ¿eh?
Sí, claro. Adiós.
Oye, ¿tiene poco?
Sí, claro. Toma.
¿Y la cartera?
¿Por qué?
Tiene un cuchillo.
Eso no es un cuchillo. Eso no es un cuchillo.
¡Corre, corre!
Hi kids, I'm Jonathan King, and 200 years ago today I had a dream about getting together a group of people to reenact the First Fleet. So, with much graft, corruption, offers of free beer, we got together the best fleet possible. We had to start with a Commodore. So, 1 year's worth of free gin and tonics. Free gin and tonics, and we got this man here. Well, what a find.
Bounty got there first.
Bounty!
You're supposed to seek Bounty.
And then, amidst much pomp and ceremony, the Queen arrived to wave us goodbye. The Australian government offered to buy the British Air Force's used planes, and they gave us the Red Arrows for 1 day. Red Arrows!
Eventually, Soren Larsen joined the fleet, and the voyage to Tenerife began. Bounty, where the hell are you? Anybody seen our marina? Okay, well, we've just had 17 days at sea on leg 2 between Portsmouth and Tenerife, during which I worked my guts out. I wrote a book on the voyage, 55,000 words. I did regular radio reports for Macquarie. I worked with you guys on the Channel 7 material, and I did Sydney Morning Herald and Daily Telegraph reports. I worked so hard, I was doing maybe 12-hour days, that I picked up a chest infection, and I'm really buggered. And then as soon as we arrive in port, I get this letter from the company I work for telling me I'm not working hard enough, and in fact saying that my wages are going to be frozen until I supply Australia with sufficient media to justify my salary. And I feel like I've been stabbed in the back.
We're about to sail on our longest passage yet, 55 days to Rio. We have a whole new batch of trainees, and some are leaving, like Croc Mitchell has decided to rush back to Sydney for the birth of his child after all. Some of us have changed ships. John Lind is back, but now on Anna Christina. And Jonathan King has transferred to the Bounty, but not everyone is happy.
I've been sacked from the Bounty. The first time in my life, just 2 days before we arrived in Tenerife, I celebrated on board my 30th anniversary at sea. I've never been sacked in my life from any job, any ship, at any time. This is the first time that I've been sacked without really knowing why I've been sacked.
3 cheers for the Bounty! Hip hip! Hip hip! Hip hip!
When she sails, I'll see her off, and tears will be running down my face, but my head is held high. I probably should not say things, but I think from now on there may be more and more of this sort of problem on the Bounty.
Not a race.
Charlotte. Then I met an Irish girl and she was away, away, all away, all away, Joe, all away, Joe. Then I met an Irish girl and she was away, all away, Joe.
Bounty has been at sea for a year with hardly a break. From Vancouver to Tahiti and Australia to England, where she joined the fleet in the nick of time for the voyage back to Australia. Loyalties form, personalities clash. The dismissal of the first mate in Tenerife hasn't made it easier for the skipper, who himself had to sail her halfway around the world to join the start. With a bit of luck, there won't be a mutiny, even though the Bounty looks just like the original.
Bounty is a challenge in itself. I mean, what other ship in the fleet has the rig of 200 years ago and on deck is more or less an exact replica, as much as one can be, of the original ship which Bligh himself sailed over the seven seas. I think it's a fascinating challenge to anyone to be on board this vessel.
Yeah, really.
I'm on really good terms with everyone in the crew, and I don't want to start running around now kicking asses, because I know that they won't respond to that. So I've got to just work gently and try and initiate changes slowly.
You got a knife, Brian? With Dave?
Most of these fellows in the crew have come out from Sydney, so I'm a newcomer as far as I'm concerned. I've also had less experience in square rig than most of them. Well, all of them, in fact, because when I joined in Portsmouth, I'd never set foot on a working square rigger before.
Starboard sheets up! Starboard sheets off!
To lack experience while replacing a popular first mate is an unenviable position, particularly on a 55-day passage to Brazil.
What we're going to do, what we're doing is we're sailing just about directly south, so that when we get past the doldrums are in this sort of area here, along the equator, we'll pick up the southeast trades, and then we can head over towards Salvador, head more westerly course.
It may seem strange to sail to Cape Town via South America, as this entails the crossing of the Atlantic twice.
Slack your port sheet 20 degrees off course. All free hands, get the staysails across, please.
Okay, make fast, Elena. 2, 6,
We're on course now. Gonna flick that block over the freeway.
It is the steady, regular trade winds on either side of the equator which induce a navigator to use this route, carrying him to within a few degrees of the Brazilian coast.
All right, good job, team. You did it like professionals.
So what was that, Mario, that's just being done?
It's called wearing a ship. It's we had the wind originally on the starboard side aft, starboard quarter, and we just, having the wind coming aft like this, we just turned around so the wind comes over to the other side. It's just changing course.
The second mate is an Italian-Canadian. His name's Mario. They say he knows the Bounty's rigging more than anyone. He's got a thing going with Tony, who's the second cook. She was involved in the dismissal of the first mate. It's just a little thing which became a big thing about some food he didn't like. But it makes you think about how one couple and a crew of blokes can really threaten mateship.
To have men and women performing identical duties with free expression was unheard of on our voyage. Sexual deprivation from weeks at sea was a factor which could not be overlooked. There were some prostitutes among our women convicts. Philip had wished to regularize prostitution. This would have been preferable to the wild and secret abuses below decks against the other women convicts. I am incredulous at the good-natured freedom and respect your men and women hold for each other.
Basically what we're doing is filling up this mizzen circle.
We'd furl the sails if the wind direction, if the wind strength stopped and there was no further need for them, or if the wind strength increased to the point where we could no longer carry the sail.
This is going to cost you guys some ciggies, you know.
The sinking of the Marquesa in 1984 has been hanging over us, especially as our third mate, Phil Sefton, was at the helm when it happened at 4 o'clock in the morning.
We had 45 seconds before the ship disappeared forever. That's no time at all. Not even time to think. To lose a lot of friends and to lose a ship, it's nothing that you're ever going to forget.
Keep that jib home, starboard side. Topmast staysail. Good one.
That was steering. But on the other hand, I'd sailed 10,000 miles with Marquez. I'd sailed her earlier, 12 months before, we'd sailed her through hurricane-strength winds. Very close to this part of ocean now. I knew what the Marquez could handle. I'd seen it. And even then, the strength of wind that we went through earlier in the year was just was nothing compared to what finally knocked us down and buried us. Just when you think you've seen the last, great big hand comes out the sky and just disappears. Anyway, to talk of happier things.
And when you're going back down, what you do is the technique for going down is in fact more difficult than going up in some respects, but it's just a matter of climbing down, and then you can hang in free space for a while if you want.
See you, Sam.
See you later. Okay, so let's hit. Down, down, down.
Below decks is a world where cramped conditions aggravate the battle against ill health. We would attempt to clear the air with frequent explosions of gunpowder, the lighting of fires, and the liberal use of oil of tar. But the sudden rise of noxious bilge water would claim victims, and the stench would be unbearable.
Charlotte, wake up. You're on watch. Okay? You up?
Yeah.
All right. If we didn't have air conditioning, we'd suffocate down here.
We just heard from the Soren Larsen we're going to the Cape Verde Islands. It's official. Wacko! Brian Brokey is Bounty's swashbuckling engineer. He likes going for walks as a break from the engine room. He knows every piston, crankshaft, valve, every 20th century device in the ship, as well as every knot and rope in the 18th century rigging. This type of modern pirate fascinates me because he can do so many different things so well. While there are confused feelings about the first mate's dismissal, Brian knows whose side he's on. And when a guy like this is angry, you listen.
Sacking an officer with 30 years of sea experience, the most experienced sailor on board, gets you pretty angry. And you start thinking devious ways of revenge, which is bad. The crew doesn't have the authority to sack the skipper. I mean, Fletcher Christian tried that, right? And it didn't work, right? Aside from, short of mutiny and setting him adrift in the Zodiac, which I'd love to do, we can't really do anything about it. If we get into rough weather, that 30 years of experience from Peter Smith will definitely be missed. And if we get into that kind of weather, it's going to be interesting to see exactly what happens.
As we approached the Cape Verdes, we could see a high surf breaking among the rocks, and we were suddenly taken aback by the wind from the northeast. Each ship appeared to have the wind in a different direction. Philip instantly ordered the fleet back, as the risks were too great.
From the look of it, I'd like to reserve my judgment until we get further in. But from the look of it, I'd say that he made a wise choice. We've only got 5 shackles of cable and a small anchor, and on past occasions we have dragged. If that happens here, I shall take the ship to sea until the fleet is ready to sail.
But the Commodore's instructed us to land here.
I am in charge of this vessel, and if I think the safety of the ship is at risk, I am the one that makes the decision.
90 meters! Okay.
I recalled that a great swell was running. The acquisition of fresh fruit and vegetables would not have been worth the risk of landing in such a remote and barren location. The carrying away of a bowsprit, or some such accident, would have been a severe blow to us. And I fear that this could well happen to you.
Look at this bowsprit. This bowsprit.
Uh-oh, our first accident. 300 tons of Swedish steel could have crushed Tiny Tucker like a matchbox.
It was an accident. It's one of those things.
I had very good luck. That Russell here and his crew had very good seamanship and get very quick out of the way here. They did a very good job. It was so very fast.
It was an accident.
Russell says he can fix the yardarm because the ship is his baby. He built it from scratch. But there's no wood around here. The rest of the fleet is anchored safely, but Anna Christina also has a wood problem. She's arrived with a broken gaff.
What we did in Olga was that we cut off these pieces where it went so that we had flat ends, and put in a little extra piece so that we had exactly the same length. And we bought this iron tube that just fitted around.
And after we weld it together or put it together in some way. And I don't know what size it will be.
What you'll get is a 6-inch pipe.
6 inch, yeah. How much is 6 inch?
6 inches, 15 about.
15, yeah.
And
yeah. Where are we going to meet you? At the Eagle.
In the pilot book they write that there's only two trees on this island.
Two trees? Yeah.
But there's a little bit more, but still, you can't really find any wood here. We're going to be lucky if we find some.
They are lucky because Jimmy finds them. He takes John and Henrik through the main town of Mindelo, where the locals sell the only produce of the islands, fruit, veg and fish. At the island's only timber yard, they realise they'll have to think of something else.
You know where we can get an iron tube?
or that you can get it.
At the shipyard?
Yeah, in the shipyard you can get it. They can make also any size you want. Yeah.
They try a shipyard. The Cape Verdes were always a wayside station for sailors, mainly for picking up coal and doing repairs. So this could be the place. But I think the islands have seen better days.
2 inches. And Christina is 3 inches in the wood.
As soon as you start taking out the planks, you're seeing all the ribs and what is underneath, and usually it looks terrible. We can get this job done here in this shipyard, which apparently is 8 hours for a man, something like that, to do for free, just because the manager of the shipyard likes old sailing ships. You know, his office was covered by pictures of old square riggers on the walls and so on, beautiful frames. And he likes that. So apparently we can get this done for free, which is of course very nice of him. So I invited him on board tomorrow morning. So he'll come on board on the ship, and I'll show him around, give him a cup of coffee and a brandy if he wants. And so everybody's happy, especially I am.
Hello, Australia. Hello, Australia.
As we entered the doldrums and the winds declined, this belt of calm close to the equator produced unexpected maladies arising from diet and dehydration. And your stopping at the Cape Verde Islands probably didn't help you either.
Oh, Rob, it's Judy over here on the Bounty. I'd just like to get in contact with you today and just recap on the cases that we've had over here as far as the diarrhea and vomiting is concerned. We've had 6 cases altogether and 1 suspect, and they don't appear to be following any pattern. Over.
Yeah, we've had a bit of that too. The weather doesn't lend itself to a great deal of expenditure of energy, so I think that's compounding the lethargy problem.
There are so many things to trip over with our bare feet, and cuts fester.
Good, thanks, Dave.
Great. Have you had any problems overnight?
No, none at all. Foot feels really good.
Does it?
Our entire fleet has only 2 surgeons. The original fleet had 10. Although times have changed, we're still in the middle of nowhere when something does go wrong.
Vomiting and not eating anything. It's got worse and worse.
The period of hot and sultry weather continues. It has become so hot that female convicts frequently faint away. Every move is an effort. Water rations have been cut down to 3 pints per day. An 82-year-old convict died of dropsy. The morale of the fleet has been raised today with good news from England. So instantaneous, it rivals mental telepathy.
The first Aussie Wimbledon champion in years doesn't realise his impact out here in the middle of the Atlantic.
Does anybody have a guess how much it was going to cost them to create Australia? £3,000. And for 28 guineas a convict, they undertook to get the convicts to Botany Bay alive.
Alive or just on?
Alive, which is the difference between the second fleet, because they weren't paid to get them there alive. So the second fleet, they lost 267 convicts because the company was only paid to put them on board. The second fleet. In 1790.
Oh, I see. I thought you were talking about
us. Several of the sailors from the ship the Lady Penguin went into the water, and shortly after, a very large shark was seen astern. The captain ordered them out of the water for their own safety.
We'll keep a good look out for the shark, so there's no problem there. If they come around, we'll get out of the water in plenty of time.
200
years ago today.
A bit long, Arnie.
The shark lookout on the Amarina spotted a shark, an 8-foot bronze whaler with turquoise fins. They called us on the ship's radio that it was coming our way, and we got out pretty quick.
I know I can.
We're on latitude 00.00. In fact, we're on the equator. And as you can see, it's not as calm as the mill pond. A lot of people remember Coleridge's words, as still as a painted ship upon a painted ocean. But that's not the situation here, because this is called the Intertropical Convergence Zone, where the northeast trades and the southeast trades meet each other, and there's nowhere for them to go except up. As a result, you don't get the normal pattern of winds. You get squalls, you get storms, you get winds from all points of the compass.
They tell us that those of us who haven't been across the equator on a sailing ship before have an awesome initiation ahead.
Can you tell us what we're expecting for tomorrow? I'm not really sure. We'll have to see what Neptune comes up with.
No clues?
No buns or clues, no.
Can you give us a clue about what's happening tomorrow?
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't tell you if I knew anyway.
I anticipate that it will not be pleasant.
The only clue I can give you is Lord Neptune is arriving, and he knows all about your sins.
I know all the places on this ship to hide. And I will be in one of them.
Here he comes.
One more step.
Hey.
Lineberger.
Lord of the high seas, Lord of swell, wind, and rain, and tempest, you shall kneel before the Lord and kiss his ring, I command thee.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, that was good.
Kiss the ring.
Wow.
Love it.
There you go. Easter eggs on that.
Who's this?
Who's there?
It's a man! Jonathan King Pollywog. You are kneeling before King Neptune, the exalted one. Kiss it. Kiss his ring. Kiss his ring. Kiss his ring. Kiss his ring.
Am I still to understand that Dr. Jonathan King suggests reincarnation from my very self?
A few relationships have been forming on the fleet. It's tough when they're on separate ships, but some people use the rare mid-sea exchanges of supplies for getting together.
So I think everybody really did go into the doldrums when we passed through the doldrums. I don't know what happened on Bounty, but certainly everybody went into hibernation here. Really shut up shop. And as the weather got more pleasant, everybody came back to life and really picked up. We've had a great run on this ship.
Got anything else?
Come on, Artie. Come on, Artie. You gotta go home. I don't want to stop the party.
Is that electric, is it?
What's this cable called? Like that.
Now, Joy, back to starboard, where you first have come. You're a sailor with the first fleet, not a bloody bummer. Dose a dough, your partner, Alaman, your quarter. If you swabs could really sail, you'd be a little taughter.
Just heard, we're arriving in Brazil 11 a.m. tomorrow, July the 12th. Salvador Bahia, here we come. After a month at sea, can't wait to land. Never been to South America, but we're getting in the mood already.
Salvador!
A movie set. Can't believe it after weeks at sea. You see a bunch of skyscrapers, a forest of skyscrapers.
Oh my God.
We would sail directly to Rio without stopping here, and were eager to be in port to enjoy fresh meat again.
Some of our ships are really low on stocks. One is down to pasta and sunflower seeds. We'll make up for it as soon as we hit shore. Oh, it'll be great to smell flowers again and earth. I'm going to go for a long walk.
What's the procedure? Well, what's the system? Who's going to greet them and all that? I will. How are you? Oh. Bom dia.
A lot of murders in the area, especially outside the yacht club. Inside the yacht club, it's pretty safe. They ask you not to exchange money with people inside the yacht club. And all the facilities there are open for our use, providing we behave ourselves. So we can get raging drunk, but just behave yourself.
We're allowed to anchor off the Salvador Yacht Club and use its facilities. Some of the sights after being at sea for so long are a real treat. It's a great chance for a nice, respectable sailor to get to know the local Catholics. But it's difficult to know where to begin. Yes, so far Brazil is definitely not a disappointment. We're partying at the yacht club tonight. I hope I'll be able to rise to the occasion after all the bromide in the ship's tucker.
It's getting hot. You going to go in for a swim?
I can't go and swim there because we've been banned because somebody a few days ago, yesterday night, went in with no clothes on, so they banned us completely from the pool.
Yeah, it's pretty unfortunate. He said the press has got wind of it, and he says that people were swimming nude in front of all members of the families and their children, and he said they put the word around not to go any further with the crew members because they thought there might be a fight. The people are fairly modest here, surprisingly enough. You know, they spit at women on the beach who bare their breasts. You know, they go around, they don't mind the backside, but not the breasts. And it appears that they were very shocked, and a lot of them had their children there. That's what they said, which that upset them. And but these things happen. So I think the decision needs to be made, and I suppose it'll have to be made, as I said, with the captains and with Mike about what we do and where we go.
If you were to leave here, I think it would make it look worse.
Yeah.
It would make it look like you're being kicked out or fleeing, and I personally wouldn't just get up and go that quickly, because then in the papers and the press, here they go hopping from port to port, making their way down, and I wouldn't leave after something like that.
Hey! Right, well, you're not allowed to go ashore. Everybody's been banned from the yacht club.
But, you know, it is an embarrassment, of course, not just for the fleet, but it could be embarrassing for Australia to a certain extent.
Well, any group of people, it's bound to happen. Basically, these sort of fleets are not intended to visit yacht clubs.
You know, in the old days, they would have been flogged for playing up ashore like that. No, we're going to have to smarten our act up. The Commodore's taking my letter now to the yacht club, apologising on behalf of the entire First Fleet. And we have to use this as a warning. This can't happen in Rio or Cape Town or somewhere like that.
So we made music, my friend. We had lots of fun. One day I said, my friend, something has begun. And you, my friend.
Judy Lincoln, our nurse, has moved over to the trade wind. Maybe it's got something to do with Yaka, the engineer. You've got to grab these moments when you can, because at sea, anything can be around the corner. Out of a blue sky can come a squall. And suddenly you've got to take in sail, batten down the hatches, secure sail to the boom with gaskets, and if you're unlucky, watch the wind find a weak spot. Uh-oh, the mainsails are ripping. Trade wind is literally as ripped apart as the rest of the fleet. Morale couldn't be lower since we were banned from the Salvador Yacht Club. And we realise we're only as strong as our weakest link. And now poor Adrian has stabbed himself trying to save the mainsail.
Blood was spurting out the pumps of the heart, Evan.
Could you describe how the injury occurred? Over.
Yes, clearly it's a knife puncture. Adrian was doing something with a rope. The wind caught hold of a block, and instead of cutting the rope, it stabbed him in the wrist over.
Watch yourself, Tony. Okay, take the sheet in. Sheet it in hard. And look at the operating lamp is getting
Wounded Adrian is like a symbol of our wounded fleet. Since the banning from the yacht club, we've heard we may not be welcome in Rio either. It's all got out of proportion. And to add to it, there's a chance the fleet will pack up in Rio if there aren't enough funds awaiting the ship owners.
Everybody I've talked to said Rio, that was the magic place, and it's here, it's right here now. We're ready for it, and the people are excited. Some are sad because it's the end of the trip for them, you know, they really become attached to us and the ship, and it's the end. And last night on deck, you know, there's not tears, but certainly some, a little bit of depression, mingled with the thrill of getting here to Rio.
Good evening. The ships in the first fleet reenactment voyage have sailed into Rio de Janeiro, but there are still stormy waters ahead. The fleet is in serious financial trouble and needs nearly $1 million to pay for the rest of the journey to Australia. Already they've been turned down by Prime Minister Hawke and the Bicentennial Authority. And today's spectacle could be the fleet's one and only.
Will the ship sail on to Cape Town and Sydney? Fleet organisers say they won't be able to answer that question until they meet the ship captains tomorrow to discuss money and receive a final response, hopefully a commitment from the federal government. In Rio de Janeiro, Ian Hislop, 11 a.m. Once more.
You know, we're do-gooders. We're doing good for Australia. Why can't the government keep backing us? But that's not what's going to happen. As he said, sailors got themselves into that mess. Sailors will have to bail out their own ships.
Bail out? No, bailing's a question for sailors, not for prime ministers. These people are a private enterprise, so if they've made bad decisions and bad assumptions, then that's something that they will basically have to live with.
Many of us are taking a break from the problems of the fleet, hoping that a miracle will somehow come along and there'll be enough money to sail on.
A radio poll on whether the first fleet reenactment should continue on to Sydney has sparked a public fund aimed at bringing all ships into Sydney Harbour on Australia Day. The future of the ambitious project was under a cloud after negotiations with some proposed sponsors failed to come up with the necessary $900,000.
I'm not too much into that side of the thing, you know. If there was any real serious problems, perhaps they should call me in to help them out with their problems, you know. I do have a way.
Bounty skipper Ken Edwards has decided to quit. Adrian Small, a veteran of square riggers, is taking over.
As I say, the consequences of not taking this step were put in terms of, well, you might be carried off in a box. Now, they're rather stern words from the fleet surgeon.
While we wait for the fate of the fleet, we're cheering ourselves up in the most Brazilian ways possible.
Unbelievable. I've played soccer for 20 years and I've never come across anything like this.
The largest stadium in the whole world. There's Flamengo against Fluminense, and it's going to be a great match.
Tonight, we just heard that the Australian public has saved the fleet. We can sail for Africa.
A few things downstairs need to be cleaned up, but we are ready. We got all the booze and the cigarettes, so yeah, it's okay.
We had to content ourselves with cathedrals and butterflies. I must say, this return has been most enjoyable.
Rio has saved the spirit of the fleet. Bloody marvelous. Thank you, Brazil.
Yeah, I decided to stay with the fleet. I'm going to crew on Amarina.
Such a lovely city you very seldom come to. Beautiful people, lovely.
Yeah, we've had a fairly good run altogether. Yeah, we've got everything we needed done and we're ready to go. And everybody's had a reasonable time here. Yeah.
The business, mate. Let's just get out of here, right?
I'm looking forward to Cape Town.
See you in Cape Town.
Sydney. I'll be sitting on the gallant going into Sydney Harbour. They are. That's a promise.
Australia's a lot closer today than it was yesterday.
A couple of weeks in Rio and you suddenly feel a little better, a little younger, and so I'm back on the fleet. Well, I never left.
Thought perhaps what London to Rio was just a bit easy. It was good fun, but perhaps it was just a bit easy. But it's turning out to be difficult and a challenge and exciting and all the things it was meant to be.
Lovely to be at sea again. 9, 8, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, Cape Town!
And so the first fleet leaves Rio de Janeiro on a somewhat optimistic note. But the next big test will come in Cape Town in 30 days. That's when the ship captains will demand to be paid for the final leg to Australia, and that's when we'll find out whether there's sufficient money to cover the costs. In Rio de Janeiro, Ian Hislop, 7 National News.
On this leg, we endured deaths, widespread sickness, a mutiny attempt, and the worst weather we encountered thus far.
Somewhere in the middle of the South Atlantic. 14 days out of Rio, 4 months out of England. And the dreaded message has hit us. Man overboard. We thought it had never happened. One of our family is out there, drowning, alone.
Yeah, that's more or less that. Because now, according to my 6 o'clock, which might not be very correct, we'll probably have to check it out with trade wind.
What is the extreme eastern air?
Commodore, my 3 o'clock this morning position was 15 degrees 46, over.
Roger. So if we go east for half a mile, will that be all right, do you think, over?
I'd suggest a mile myself, but it's up to John, over.
Okay, John, what do you say, over?
Yes, I agree with trade wind, what we should do, because that's where we have been looking this morning, over.
So that makes it 15...
It's been in there 6 hours now. Chances are, even if we find him, he's probably dead.
The actually fact that the person probably not is alive anymore.
Yeah, what we've heard is that Henrik was trimming a headsail sheet, and it was flogging so badly it threw him over the side.
He was in the yelling. I mean, he was just yelling. He was up here. I mean, like really panicked, and his voice was full of water, and his eyes were. I don't even know if he was aware that Johan jumped in the water. You know.
And finally, in the early evening, when the sun went down again and started becoming dark, that we realized Henrik is dead. He's gone. Then we had a little funeral, a little ceremony on our aft deck. And that night, people started talking about how good a guy he was and so on. But it all ended up with that we all sat up here in the aft deck in one little group with everybody's hands in each other, and we cried.
Those of us who have lost a companion at sea know your grief. This grief is part of your rite of passage. But you must keep sailing on.